Thursday morning meeting of the Lewis and Clark County Commission. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, so this is the Thursday, January 29th, 2026 meeting of the Lewis and Clark County Commission. I'll start over here to the left and introduce the folks from staff that are sitting up front. Jenny Chambers is our Director of Public Works and Planning. Brandy Grandy is our recording secretary, keep track of all the proceedings. Commissioner Andy Hunthausen. I'm Tom Rolfe, Chair of the Commission. Commissioner Candace Payne is out this morning. Nico Hash and TJ Murphy are from the County Attorney's Office, and Roger Baltz, our Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Baltz, I should mention that there is a sign-up sheet on the other side of the bar. We'd like to get your name and contact information, and there's a copy of our agenda there for you to have as well. Mr. Baltz, we have a consent action item. You want to present that for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Hunthausen. This is item 2A on the agenda today. It's vendor claims reports for week ending January 30, 2026. Staff recommends approval of that item, and Marni Bentley is here with us today as usual. Thank you very much.
All right. Are there any questions from the Commission?
No, sir.
Is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment on this consent item? There being none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve consent action item 2A as presented.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the Commission? Any discussion from the Commission? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving consent action item 2A, vendor claim reports for the week ending January 30, 2025, as presented by Mr. Baltz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 2-0. Next item on our agenda is a professional services contract between Lewis and Clark County and International Cybernetics Company, LLC, doing business as IMS Infrastructure Management Services, ICC-IMS. Mr. Karlin, if you want to present that, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Dan Karlin, County Engineer. Before you today is a contract with International Cybernetics Company, LP, doing business as Infrastructure Management Services, or ICC-IMS, to perform a pavement condition index analysis on county-maintained hard-surfaced roads in Lewis and Clark County. The scope of work includes completing the collection of roadway condition data processing and analysis, preparing reports in Excel and a geodatabase, conducting deferred cost analysis, developing a 5-year pavement management plan, and providing access to their Inform online data viewer. The contract is for time and materials not to exceed $35,050, and work will be completed by September 1st of 2026. The project is included in the fiscal year 26 Public Works Road Gas Tax budget. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the contract with ICC-IMS in the amount of $35,050 with an end date of September 1st, 2026, and authorize the Chair to sign. And I can answer questions you may have.
Question that I had, looking through the material that you gave us earlier, there's apparently some new technology, and have we done it? We haven't done this much in the past, have we?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, no, we have not ever done a PCI analysis. In the past, we've done what's called a PACER analysis. That's all visual, and it's comparing visual conditions of the road surface that you can see with your eye to samples that are provided by the PACER packet, and how you do that. You can do that on gravel roads. You can also do that on paved roads. This PCI analysis goes a little deeper. It analyzes the width of cracks. The equipment that they use to collect this now is a mobile LiDAR that's mounted on a van or truck. So they're actually taking thousands and thousands of shots of the road as they're driving along these roads. They do multiple passes. They can actually collect a variety of data up to and including signage, curb and gutter condition, things, all manner of things related to the road. In this instance, we're collecting road surface data, so we have a better picture, a more accurate picture of the condition of our hard surface roads. This information is also actually required in FLAP, Federal Lands Access Program grant applications. It's requested it in the past, and you actually do get a little deduct if you use the former PACER analysis as opposed to the PCI data. So we're pretty excited about getting this done.
Now, we've got about 1,500 miles of county roads. We are able to maintain 570 some. So which of the roads are, did I understand it's just the roads that are hard surface or paved?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's correct. So this is only looking at the hard surface roads. So these will be our full 3-inch or plus 3-inch plus mat, asphalt mats, or our double shot chip seal roads, or millings with chip seals, things of that nature. So,
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair. Good.
Go ahead.
Mr. Karlin, thank you. Appreciate you bringing this to us. I'm kind of excited. And as you were just describing, it seems that this is now kind of best practice. Used to be the PACER analysis. This is kind of where we are now. And it obviously, as you described, will assist us in our grant applications and those kinds of things as part of that process. What I wanted to ask, and what may be of interest to the listening or those that are watching today, ultimately, this culminates in a development of a 5-year pavement management plan. And just a little bit of what what might be in that plan. You don't have to get too detailed, but kind of just give us the idea of what folks might anticipate to be part of a plan like that.
sure, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hunthausen. So one element of these is a deferred maintenance cost analysis. So for every year that goes by, the pavement degrades if you don't do some sort of maintenance activity on that or maintenance treatment. I've got a really nice chart I probably should have brought that would have showed that nicely. But if you do a maintenance treatment on time or ahead of schedule, it boosts the condition of that pavement. So the PCI number will go up a corresponding amount. And if you catch that, it's a rolling wave. So if you catch it on time, you'll keep the condition of that pavement really high for a very, very long time. If you allow it to go down the curve too far, the quality curve too far, it becomes necessary to do a much more extreme remedy. So what this will do is it'll lay out a timeline of when each pavement should be treated and what treatment should happen to it to keep that as high up the curve as we can. So, and it does that for a 5-year cycle. So if we've got, you mentioned best practices. So in the past, a lot of times municipalities and counties and I guess infrastructure managers were doing a worst first situation. So you're taking a bad road and you're trying to bring it up, and that's really expensive because you have to do a much more extreme treatment. If you do what I was just speaking of, you're spending a lot fewer dollars to keep those roads in better condition. And you, unfortunately, have a tendency to kind of let those other ones go a little further, knowing that you're going to do a more extreme treatment. So it's saving $1 and spending $0.10, really, is the idea.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve the professional services contract as described and presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just thank you, Mr. Karlin and Jenny and your team for bringing this forward. I think it's great. I'm glad we're moving into this and looking forward to the plan and how that can preserve. I think a little bit of maintenance and preventative work goes a long way, because we often find ourselves behind the eight ball when we're looking at roads and the price tags and the conditions, and pretty challenging times when that happens. So this would be a better way to go.
The other thing that I really like about it, Commissioner, is that it helps us be a little more accurate in our CIP for the road department. So that
Thank you.
then we can be a little bit more focused on, as Mr. Karlin explained, be a little more focused on what we're doing and plan it out a little bit better. So I think that's a good idea. Any other discussion? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving action item 3A, professional services contract between Lewis and Clark County and International Cybernetics Company, LP, ICC, DBA, IMS Infrastructure Management Services, ICC-IMS, as explained by Mr. Karlin, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 2-0. Next item on our agenda is a briefing on mutual aid assistance provided to Lincoln County. Autumn and Kyle.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioner. Autumn Ashdale with Disaster and Emergency Services Coordinator for Lewis and Clark County, here with Kyle Sturgill-Simon, Emergency Manager for Lewis and Clark County. I'm just going to give him a minute to get up our presentation. All right, we're here today to give you a briefing on our recent mutual aid assistance that we provided to Lincoln County, both for their flooding incident in December of 2025, as well as the planning of their undersheriff's memorial in January of 2026. So as an overview of the incidents, December 11th, 2025, Lincoln County experienced significant flooding due to a rain on snow event with heavy rains. They experienced significant damage to multiple bridges, roads, and dams, and also had impacts to their drinking water supply. Estimated damages for this event are currently at $10 million. This event has received local, state, and federal emergency declarations and is awaiting a decision on a federal disaster declaration. December 17th, they also experienced a historic windstorm that impacted most of the counties across the state, as well as neighboring states. That triggered a statewide disaster declaration. Lincoln County, still responding to the damages from their floods, also was heavily hit by this windstorm and impacted their power lines and resulted in long-term power outages, as well as downed trees and debris. They have joined 28 other counties and 5 tribal nations in request for a presidential disaster declaration.
Unfortunately, after hundreds of hours of overtime related to the flooding and windstorm damage, and while they were still in recovery phase, their undersheriff, John Heislop, passed away. This was a big impact to the area because most of these first responders had been running and gunning for several weeks. They were already very stressed, very tired, and then to have that impact to their community was pretty devastating. Request for assistance was made across the state. They needed coverage for emergency services during the memorial. They actually stood up an incident management team to plan all of the different moving parts that would go along with bringing all these assisting jurisdictions together. And that memorial took place on January 19th. It had a full procession with over 60 emergency response vehicles. It had a full honor guard comprised of law enforcement members from across the state, as well as the reception afterwards.
So the mutual aid that we provided, for myself, I went in December 2025 to respond to the Lincoln County flooding. Initially, I was requested on mutual aid as a planning section chief. Now, this role is kind of the organization role for an incident. They do everything from facilitating meetings, creating contact lists. They produce the situation report, which is a report at the local incident on what's going on, to let our state partners know and all of our stakeholders, so they can be tracking damages and what's going on and what resources we might need. Also, this position requests and shares weather reports. They can also serve as the point of contact for the National Weather Service or any incoming weather that might be dangerous to first responders, and help integrate the locals into the incident command system. So kind of get them used to the planning process and the meeting schedules and kind of the decision-making process that goes into an incident. Additionally, I also served as a mutual aid coordinator and training specialist. So there's a program right now amongst statewide emergency management to kind of get more of a mutual aid network going, and part of that to bring in trainees into local incidents so they can get experience and build their own skill set.
Then several weeks later for the memorial, I was also requested to come out as a planning section chief. Again, we treated this as you would an incident. We don't call it an incident action plan, but we usually call it an event action plan. There's sometimes just as many moving parts. We also did things like working with National Weather Service for weather reports, not necessarily for public safety aspect to it, but when we found out what the weather was like, we actually implemented a truck cleaning station for the procession because we had a lot of vehicles arriving from across the state. I think Roosevelt County may have been the farthest. So when they arrived to be in the procession, we had a setup for them to be able to clean their vehicles. So they looked presentable in the procession. That was kind of based on the weather reporting assistance. We also took Captain Brad Bragg. Much appreciated the assistance from the sheriff's office. Then Captain Bragg worked with me in the planning section to just make sure that all of the different responding jurisdictions were incorporated into the plan. We did the full planning process where we do planning meetings, operations briefs with all the folks that are going to be doing different things. They each had an ICS Form 204, which is an assignment sheet. And I think that was very beneficial for agencies that were responding from across the nation, because we had Idaho representation as well. They were able to arrive on scene after a long day's travel, and they just got the plan. And then they could look for what part of the plan they were supposed to be assisting with. There was contact information available for them. There were places for them to report to. So we made it as seamless for all the other assisting agencies as possible.
So an overview of the hours worked on the incident and our costs. For myself, I worked 92.75 hours on the incident. That initial 2-day period was on mutual aid, and that cost the county $19.50.97. After that point, I was officially resource ordered to the incident, and at that point, my expenses became reimbursable. So that additional amount that's eligible for reimbursement is $4,036.11. Now, out of that, that also covers my straight time that has already been budgeted by Lewis and Clark County. So we'll receive that back in $1,327.48. So that's kind of a financial benefit to Lewis and Clark County.
My assistance to Lincoln County was a touch different. It was full mutual aid, but they covered more of the expenses. So I had 56 hours worth dedicated to helping out. Probably about 20 of those were driving time, 2 trips. But they covered lodging and meals. So on top of the hours, the only expense we had was 1 tank of fuel, because one of the trips I carpooled.
So some of our takeaways from our assistance up to Lincoln County. First of all, I wanted to start by saying that I originally went up there to help with the flooding, but was able to be recalled when that statewide windstorm swept across the state. So any deployment that we do, we are able to be recalled back to our home county should something happen that we need to be here for. And I think one of the benefits of me being involved in that flooding was I was already on multiple meetings a day with the National Weather Service. So even prior to kind of a few days before seeing that weather storm build up, I was pretty involved with the National Weather Service, hearing that this might be coming down the line. One of my big takeaways was incidents often overwhelm local capacity, and we really do rely on strong mutual aid networks across this state to provide effective response for our public and our first responders. As part of that, I mentioned that emergency management is kind of trying to do a statewide effort to work on their mutual aid network. One of the programs that currently exists in the state is through the MSPOA. They have a sheriff's office mutual aid network that's strong, and they do have a position funded through it. Right now, that funding is through the Homeland Security grant, and right now that hasn't been funded. So that position may be at risk right now. One additional takeaway was a better understanding of when it's time to request assistance. That emergency manager up in Lincoln County worked over 36 hours straight that initial time period before even requesting help. And part of that was they're so involved in that response that it's hard to step back and realize that they need to start planning for the next day, and they need to start thinking, what resources do they need? It's time to request help. So it can be helpful to have extra people come in and just recognize that it's time to bring in extra help. I think in Montana we struggle with asking for help. You know, we're really resilient. So that was a takeaway for me.
And, the assistance for the memorials is different. It's not necessarily an emergency or a disaster in that sense of the word, but I did really appreciate the chance to work with our sheriff's office to bring in, we trained the incident command system, and the mutual aid brought in for memorials like this. Them implementing the ICS system is a great way for us to work with them, go through the whole process, and get kind of one more iteration of it under our belt, so that when we do respond to an emergency and a disaster, everybody has recently, gone through the process, and any chance that we get to be able to implement it is beneficial for us. So this was a good opportunity for that. While we are talking about it, didn't know we would have our undersheriff here, bring him up. So mutual aid across the state, the MSPOA has their own mutual aid coordinator. They have events and incidents much more frequently than emergency management does. We're thankful for that. But we have been working on our own mutual aid framework for emergency management, like Autumn was discussing. And I think it's beneficial for all the parties involved that we've been able to interact and kind of intertwine those mutual aid systems. And the undersheriff had a few words about it too.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Undersheriff Brent Colbert from right here in Helena. I also get the privilege of being the president of the Montana Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And we've been working on, it's called Montana Mutual Aid. The coordinator of this program that was started quite a few years back at MSPOA, it's housed in Gallatin County. The Gallatin County Sheriff's Office houses his position, and it is funded through a grant, which is being held up right now. You can see through this isn't the only incidences of how we've used this program. Lewis and Clark County has benefited from this program in the last two big fires that we've had, plus some other things. Counties across the whole state of Montana have benefited through this Montana Mutual Aid. And I'm glad to hear that they're trying to further that program or make it bigger. That's good, and it helps the whole state of Montana. Unfortunately, with the grant not being funded, that Montana Mutual Aid is going to have to be held up until that grant is put forth. So at the end of this week, the end of the month, that program, the coordinator is just going to be held up for a while until we can get that funding or some other sort of funding for that position. So it was hard for us to do that because it benefits everybody so much across the state, plus Lewis and Clark County. And as soon as the funding comes through, we'll put it right back online. We'll also try to figure out another way of funding that program. But I know Gallatin County had asked, they can't keep that position going since it is housed there. But as you can see, it does benefit all of Montana, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are trying to do it DES-wise and follow that model. So thank you.
All right. Anything more that you want to add?
So just to close, I just want to say how much we appreciate the opportunity to be allowed to go up to Lincoln County and help out, both to provide assistance as well as to work on our own skills, as Kyle said. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hunthausen.
Just a little more about the experience gained, because you spoke about the person that in Lincoln that probably should have pulled the trigger a lot sooner in terms of asking for help. That's an experience thing, and a lot of times I bet next time he or she will surely do that. But can you just speak a little bit more? There's levels of certification, there's experience levels that you can, I guess, accumulate as you gain experience, and that gives you more status and more ability to respond to bigger and more serious events, or be in a role in an event that is with more responsibility, and that comes with experience. And every time you go on one of these incidents, it adds to that. Just speak to that a little bit, and I think all of the emergency managers and coordinators across the state are in the same boat, trying to get experience and learning from each event. So, thanks.
Sure. So we, in emergency management, for incidents, we set up the incident command system, and that's supposed to be the framework in which we operate when we're handling large incidents that are kind of beyond our typical capacity. So as part of that, there are different positions in the incident command system, and you open a task book, and it's just a list of tasks that you need to complete in order to become qualified in that position. Once you're qualified, that allows you to work on more incidents. Typically, it allows you to be sent other places through state-to-state mutual aid. So even though we're in Montana, we might have the opportunity to work on a hurricane or on an earthquake or things that are happening around the country. So we get experience beyond just, the occasional incident that happens in Montana. So as I said, those qualifications, those task books are for certain positions. So the planning section chief position that we were both requested as, we can get that experience documented and work towards our qualifications. But that also helps out our own county. When we do have a disaster or an emergency, that means that we have that experience and those qualifications to help us here locally.
Great, thank you.
I'd just like to, another benefit to that as well is when we have those qualifications, we are able to do for others what others have done for us in terms of qualifications for them. It's a little bit of a rocky thing to get started to get these qualifications. So us having them means we can go to a local emergency and pull somebody along with us who's interested in also doing one of these qualifications, and we can sign off on them to get them started and get the qualifications for them as well, which is kind of why we're pursuing as many of them as we are, so that we can integrate in with our law enforcement partners, our fire response partners. And if any of them are interested in a position within the incident command system, we can sort of observe them going through those tasks, and then they will get that task book signed off on as well.
Looks like you're really trying to make this mutual aid system work, and we're participating to help others with the idea that we could very well use help in an emergency for us as well. Well thought out. It's important to have that experience that you don't get every year, and be able to do that. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chair, just thank you, appreciate it, and like to see the gaining of experience. You don't ever want to say that you look forward to the opportunities, because it's not what we want to see, but the reality of our world is that disasters are going to happen. That's why your positions exist, and we can't control the weather and other things out there sometimes. So being prepared and being ready to respond and getting this experience where we can, I think it's really important. And what goes around comes around. So there's going to be a time of need for Lewis and Clark County. There has been in the past. There'll be again. And so being prepared for that and being able to ask for help out there is great. And appreciate the undersheriff being here today, and hope that grant comes through. I'm assuming it's a federal grant that has been held up like others. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. And I want to comment too that before everything came down, before autumn was sent, I got a courtesy call from you to let me know that it was going to happen. I think that's important to maintain that communication so that we know when these opportunities come out. And so thank you. And I wholeheartedly approve what you're doing. All right. Thanks. Is there any further action? I don't think we need to approve anything or.
Mr. Chair, not to put him on the spot, but I don't know if Mr. Baltz, I don't know. Well, I know you and Kyle have spent a lot of time together, and you approve all these extraordinary things that happen, and so I appreciate your work on this as well. And I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to contribute.
Well,
Just didn't want to pass you by if you had something.
Not at all. Thank you, Commissioner.
Been in the middle of it all. So.
No. Really glad that Kyle and Autumn were able to go and help our friends in Lincoln County when they were having some distress over there. And you've touched on it. The opportunity. It's great to be able to assist and generate, those working relationships, and also the training that it provides for our emergency management operations. So very appreciate everything that's been said here today and what occurred. Thank you.
All right. We've covered everything on our action item list for the day. We always offer an opportunity for someone to come and speak to our commission. If there's an item that's not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the commission, if you'll State your name and go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. My name is Karlin Rivers. I am the Program Director of the Margaret Stewart Youth Home, which is closing on Saturday. For 50 years, Lewis and Clark County has had a place, an emergency place where kids can go. I just wanted to share a couple of quick stories. A couple of days ago, I got a text at 7-something p.m. from one of the Lewis and Clark County juvenile probation officers asking if I could take a kid. There's a need. I had to tell her no because we're busy closing up shop. We do still have one resident. He'll be gone sometime between now and Saturday. The last resident that I accepted came to us a couple of days before Christmas. She left last Friday to go to another group home in Missoula. But the day before she left, one of my staff heard her talking to her mother on the phone. And this kid said, "Mom, we're not normal. People don't hit me here. They don't yell at me. If I don't do my chore, then I don't get my allowance, but they don't hit me." Before she left, she told 2 of my staff. She said, "Thank you." You've showed me what a family is supposed to be. I spent the whole month that I was here wanting to leave. And now that it's time to go, I don't want to. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that we're not going to be here next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? There being none, we're adjourned.